Psalm 73 ended with Asaph standing near God, declaring his works, while Psalm 74 opens with Asaph asking why God has cast his people off. The contrast is not a contradiction. It is the honest experience of a man who knows God well enough to bring his worst questions to him. The superscription identifies this as a maskil of Asaph, a psalm of instruction. The congregation needs to learn something from what Asaph is about to say. What follows is not a private complaint, but a public crisis brought before God in prayer. O God, why hast thou cast us off forever? Why doth thine anger smoke against the sheep of thy pasture? Psalm 74, verse 1. Asaph opens with a direct question to God, not a statement about God, not a complaint to the congregation. He addresses God face to face and asks why. The question, why hast thou cast us off forever, carries enormous weight. The word cast off means to reject or spurn, the same action a man takes when he throws something away as worthless. Asaph does not accuse God of weakness or absence. He accuses God of active rejection, which is a far more difficult thing to pray through. The word forever presses the question further. Asaph is not asking about a temporary discipline he can endure. He asks whether God's rejection is permanent. This is the cry of a man who has watched the destruction of everything that once confirmed God's presence among his people. The second question sharpens the first. Why doth thine anger smoke against thy flock? It smokes, meaning it lingers and spreads without relief. The image is of a fire that has consumed its fuel and now produces only a choking cloud over the people. Asaph calls Israel thy flock, appealing to God's own covenant language. These are not strangers. They are his sheep, and his anger smokes against them without visible end. Remember thy congregation, which thou hast purchased of old, the rod of thine inheritance, which thou hast redeemed, this Mount Zion, wherein thou hast dwelt. Psalm 74, verse 2. Asaph shifts from questioning God to reminding him. This is not irreverence, but a covenant prayer. Asaph calls on God to remember three things: the congregation he purchased, the inheritance he redeemed, and the mountain where he dwelt. Which thou hast purchased of old reaches back to the Exodus. God did not borrow Israel or borrow Zion. He bought them at a price through the plagues, the Red Sea, and 40 years of wilderness provision. This congregation belongs to God by purchase, not just by association. The rod of thine inheritance, which thou hast redeemed, deepens the claim. The rod of inheritance refers to the tribal allotment of land, the measured portion God assigned to his people in Canaan. God redeemed this people and this land, paying the price to recover what sin and slavery had taken from them. Asaph's prayer rests on that transaction. If God purchased and redeemed Israel, then their destruction raises a question about God's investment. This Mount Zion, wherein thou hast dwelt, brings the appeal to its sharpest point. God chose Zion. He placed his name there. God's own presence consecrated that ground. Asaph does not ask God to remember Israel's faithfulness. He asks God to remember his own choices and his own dwelling. Lift up thy feet unto the perpetual desolations, even all that the enemy hath done wickedly in the sanctuary. Psalm 74, verse 3. Asaph calls on God to move. Lift up thy feet is a command to come and see what has happened in person. The desolations are described as perpetual, meaning they pile upon one another without repair. The enemy has done evil in the sanctuary, the very place God chose as his dwelling.